Good afternoon, colleagues. May I ask you to stand, please? Those who can stand, first of all, may I say welcome back to Councillor Mason. How nice to see you back here. Shall we pause for some moments of reflection that our duty here and our privilege is to serve the people of Cambridgeshire well. Thank you. Right, let's get started. I have apologies from Councillors Ashcroft, Dent and Gillick. Do I have any other apologies? Thank you very much. I would like to welcome members of the public to this meeting of the County Council, this extraordinary meeting of the County Council. You are very welcome, and I hope that you find this meeting of interest. The Council supports the principle of transparency and encourages filming, recording and taking photographs at its meetings that are open to the public. Members are advised that this meeting may therefore be filmed, recorded or photographed. The meeting is being live streamed to the web and the County Council's YouTube channel. I would like to highlight this to members of the public that they may be filmed as part of this meeting and that this will appear on the web. Please can I ask all members and the public to turn their mobile phones to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place. Councillor Walsh.
I'd like to move a point of order, Mr. Chairman, and I believe this would be the appropriate place.
Thank you.
There's been some concern in the general public that because this is an extraordinary council meeting, they are not able to ask public questions. Can you explain the procedure in the case of extraordinary council meetings for doing this, and to see perhaps if there is informal will among the political groups for enabling public questions?
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. I was going to take declarations of interest next, but as you've raised this afternoon's first point of order, let's celebrate by answering. The Constitution does not allow for any questions, either from the public nor from councillors, indeed, at extraordinary meetings. The only way that questions could be asked is by a member on the floor proposing the suspension of standing orders and for then council to vote on that proposal. So if a member proposes to do that, I would ask them to consider that we did receive 2 questions by the putative time and date allowed. We asked the questioners to put them to a future meeting. I would be uncomfortable allowing those questions to come forward because I am aware that other members of the public may have wished to ask questions, and certainly one of my own parish councils wished to, but were told there was no facility at an extraordinary meeting of the council to do so. Are you happy with that explanation? Thank you very much. Councillor Taylor, did you have a point of order that you wish to raise?
I wish to put a motion suspending standing orders, Mr. Chairman, so that we may consider whether to take public questions from the 2 gentlemen who have presented themselves here today. I believe that the decisions we're being asked to take today and the matters which we are considering strike to the heart of the way we represent the people of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and it seems to me perverse that the public are debarred from asking questions about that very matter. So I propose the suspension of standing orders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Reeve.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to second that.
Right. I don't intend to take any further debate on this fairly binary question. We will proceed to a vote, which is whether or not to suspend standing orders such that the 2 questions that were notified on time may be asked at this meeting. And those 2 questions, Mrs. Rowe, were from Mr. Carpen and from Mr. Lee. Right, Mrs. Rowe, if you'd like us, does everybody understand what they are voting for? Yes. Mrs. Rowe, if you'd like to take us through our first vote of the afternoon, so soon.
Would members please press the button marked present? Members in favour of the motion, please press the button marked yes. Members against the motion, please press the button marked no. Members wishing to abstain, please press the button marked abstain. I'm now closing the vote. Chairman, the result of the vote is 24 votes in favour, 39 against and 2 abstentions. The motion is therefore lost.
Thank you, Mrs. Rowe, for that. We will now proceed to item 1 on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Under this item, members are asked to declare interests under the Code of Conduct in any item on the agenda for today's meeting if they are not registered on the members' register of interests. May I have any declarations now, please? No declarations of interest. I move on to agenda item number 2, the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough devolution proposal. Members, as you know, the leader of the council, Councillor Count, together with the leaders of Peterborough City Council and the 5 district councils, has been closely involved in this process. I therefore propose to invite him to move the recommendations as set out on pages 3 and 4 of the council agenda. Before I do that, however, I understand that there are some minor grammatical alterations to the recommendations. Councillor Count, I think you are going to enumerate those minor grammatical alterations.
You have me at a loss, Chairman. I thought
Oh,
you
how
were,
exciting.
And I do not have them in front of me.
Shall I do it for you in that case? Recommendation 3, I propose to add an S to authorise and a comma after to and authorities and delete and. It therefore reads, considers and determines whether to approve the governance scheme attached at Appendix C and authorises the Chief Executive in consultation with the Leader of the Council to, in liaison with the other Chief Executives of constituent authorities, take all necessary actions to progress any matters arising from consideration of the deal. And at Recommendation 4, I propose to add an S to authorise. Colleagues, I now propose to seek the meeting's consent to those alterations without discussion. Happy? Oh, is that acclamation, Councillor Leake, or did you? Oh, thank you very much. I now propose to invite Councillor Count to move the recommendations as altered as set out on pages 3 and 4 of the council agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. I move the recommendations as so altered.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
I so second, Chairman.
Thank you. Now,
I reserve my right to speak, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hickford. I propose, and I hope that you will agree, in the course of our discussions, that we split the recommendations. On page 3 and 4, you will note, members, that there is 1, 2, and 3, and I propose to take those all for debate in one go. And then there are items 4 and 5, and I propose to take those separately. Everybody understand? Everybody happy with that? Right. Did I hear dissent? No. Good. In which case, Councillor Count, do you wish to speak to 1, 2, and 3?
Thank you, Chairman. To a certain degree, my preparations didn't allow for that, so I'm not sure how far astray, but I shall do it best. I think it's incumbent on me, as moving the motion, to start off by a very, very brief description of what we mean by devolution, because although many of us have been to briefings and members' seminars, etc., members of the public that may wish to hear what this is all about may not have the same depth of understanding. And what we are talking about here is the formation of a new combined authority with a directly elected mayor. And the purpose of devolution behind that, the overriding purpose, is to move powers, functions and budgets down from central government to a more local base. In the formation of the combined authority and the directly elected mayor, the directly elected mayor will be the first time that people of this area and the region alongside Norfolk and Suffolk will have the opportunity to choose who will lead them forward for themselves in that format. The combined authority is exactly what it says. It is a combination of the existing district councils, city council, Peterborough Unitary City Council, the county council and the LEP, sending along their representation onto the combined authority to work with the mayor in order to handle those devolved powers and budgets. And that new authority and mayor will have the form and the function that government is happy and content with in order to devolve powers that we see in front of us today, but also later ones. Because the opportunities in this, in the document in front of us, are phase one. And a lot of us have spoken about whether it be good, and some people may not think so. But we have been speaking primarily about the opportunities in front of us. But let me be clear, written into this document and agreed with government, this is phase one. Once we have the combined authority and mayor set up, we can go back for later phases, 2, 3, 4. That might be finance, it might be functions, it might be budgets, it could be powers. We look at Manchester on about phase 4, and actually had the health budget devolved locally in phase 3. A huge difference to the way that local people get to make decisions about the way they're moving forward. And let me assure you, Cambridgeshire has high ambitions for the future. And we will not be satisfied just with phase 1. We will be going back to government and talking to them very early on, should this be passed today, about latter phases, particularly about community safety and our health and social care. In terms of the specifics contained in phase 1 that we see in front of us today, we have various different avenues that we'll be approaching. One of them is skills. We know that a lot of this is designed to bring about and enhance our economic growth. Across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, government recognises the economic growth that is going on in this area is enormous. And at the moment, there's a stranglehold on it delivered by a number of different things. The housing crisis, which in the south of the county is very unaffordable, and in the north of the county, we cannot build because of viability. Our infrastructure, which is creaking, the congestion in the morning and afternoon rush hours, simply we cannot get people to and from their place of work. But also skills that I've mentioned. We aren't supplying our local employers all the time with the appropriately skilled people, and we need to upskill our workforce to increase productivity in order to deliver more from this area. And it is that delivering more from this area why government is prepared to invest in us. Government knows that a steady stream of finance now will lead to a torrent of revenue for the tax coffers in later years, and that is why they are pleased to be working with us. Other things that we'll be creating will be a mayoral development board and a joint investments and assets board. Some of that will build on the work that we've already done under the MAC programme, the Making Assets Count programme, where we've gained £400,000 of money from the One Public Estate, which has been working on this area to join up our asset base. So we've already got our threshold. But things like the Mayoral Development Board will give us access and a say in how areas like the RAF bases that are going to be unoccupied come forward and be developed for the local area. Something that without this deal we wouldn't be having. And when we look at those perhaps RAF bases or elsewhere that are going to deliver housing, apart from any skills and powers and functions that we have, £170 million will be delivered to the local area to deliver housing. £170 million. We need to draw up plans in a 5-year period for how to deliver houses on the back of that. That is a huge sum of money and very much welcomed with the pressures we have here. And we also will be getting the creation of an infrastructure funding pot, total £600 million. This is by far the best deal on a population base in this country. All right? This is something that I really do endorse everybody joining in. This is good for the people of Cambridgeshire. This is good for the residents of the businesses of Cambridgeshire, and this is good for the future of Cambridgeshire. I please hope that you will all support this.
Thank you, Councillor Couch. I am now, Councillor Hipkin, you've indicated you wish to speak. However, I have not yet called for amendments, of which there are at least 4. Do you wish to speak now, or can I call for amendments first? Okay, I will call for amendments. The amendments relate to small paragraph 1, 2, 4, and 6. So if nobody has any particular objection, I'm going to call Councillor Bullen first, as yours relates to 1.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to say first off that I'm not opposed to devolution. I think that a combined authority is the first step on the way to my preferred form of local government, which is unitary authorities. However, and bearing in mind that only last week the population of this country, or the majority of them, voted to get rid of one superfluous layer of government, I think it is wrong that we now impose 2 more layers on top of what we already have, and that would be the combined authority and the mayor. But as I've already said, I have no problems with the combined authority. It would be mainly manned by current elected councillors, but I do have a problem with a mayor.
Point of order, Chair, if I may.
Councillor Palmer.
We are debating the devolution agreement for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, which is very clearly laid out in front of us. And part of that deal is to have a mayor. And if there's no mayor, there's no deal. If Councillor Bullen, just a point of order, if Councillor Bullen wants a mayor, then if he doesn't want a mayor, then he doesn't vote for the deal. I don't see that it's an amendment that can be put because the deal is very clear in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. I have discussed this with our legal advisor, and he advises that this is acceptable. It's up to council to decide whether or not you agree with it. Councillor Bullen, if you'd like to continue, please.
Thank you, Chair. If you'd have given me a minute to finish. Just yesterday, the County Councils Network, and I've checked it today, and this is the policy from the Local Government Association, issued a statement, and I'll read from it. It says, "Our new campaign, Your County Matters, and wide-ranging policy work on the future of county public services takes on even greater importance during the coming period. CCN will look to put forward a positive case for delivering devolution and public reform, building on, but not undermining, county governance." It goes on to say, in particular, the changing dynamics in Westminster present an opportunity to put forward alternative models for devolution to county areas. Our members have continuously raised concerns over the one-size-fits-all approach to elected mayors. There is now a period for the government to reconsider this approach, where our members feel this governance model is not appropriate for their areas. And I put it to this chamber that this model is not appropriate to our area. We have more than enough members in local government in Cambridgeshire, and in fact I put it that we need less, not more, and that this extra tier, or extra 2 tiers I put it, is not needed. And I would propose, or I would like to think, that members will vote for the small amendment, and that we go back to government, as the LG is saying, and say that we should make the decision whether we have a mayor, and it should not be imposed upon us by central government, because that imposition is not local government, it's control from the top. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bullen. Do you have a seconder for your motion? Councillor Netzinger, do you wish to speak now, or do you wish to reserve your right to speak? Okay, members, I'm opening the Councillor Count.
Thank you, Chairman. It's taken an awful lot of time and effort to come up with the original deal, which was refused by this council, and then to come back today with this deal. And when we came to the council last time, they said, we want you to re-examine the question of whether we have to have a mayor or not, the benefits of having a mayor, which is accounted for in the governance review, change the geography to Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, ask for more money for housing, ask for more money for the infrastructure fund, and get the buy-in of the business community from the LEP. And on that basis, we rejected the original agreement that was put in front of us. We asked a question about the mayor, and we set up the governance review, and the mayor is a necessary requirement in order to move this forward. There is no question about that. It is necessary. So as Councillor Palmer quite clearly put, Without the Mayor, there is no deal. With the Mayor, there is one. On the other questions, the Cambridgeshire-Peterborough geography, we was asked to go away and achieve that. Gillian led, and I worked alongside her, and we've got that. In the case of money, we've got probably about £80 million for housing, gone up to about 170 for us. And in terms of the infrastructure of pots of around 12 million, which we're entitled to, we've got 20. And the LEP has gone on board and voted in favour of this overwhelmingly and enthusiastically with the backing of business. To consider reopening the question of the Mayor today, you might as well put that in the bin. It's all over. What I've got in my hand, and we have for us today, is the possibility of a huge amount of investment in this area. And what is being proposed opposite is not even a bird in the bush. It's an ethereal concept that has no grounding or weight, and it simply just stymies the deal. We will not be voting for this, Chairman. We will not.
Thank you, Councillor Count. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chairperson. We on this side, in this group, have much sympathy with the proposition, the amendment that Councillor Bullen has put forward. Indeed, I might say that we have every sympathy with it. Nonetheless, we shall be abstaining. We acknowledge that the democratic process sometimes has what some might consider to be unorthodox outcomes. Nonetheless, we do consider that this is a matter that should go out to the public for consultation. And Councillor Bullen said we should make the decision. We here believe it's we, the people, should make the decision, therefore it should go to consultation. So thus we abstain. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hipkin, did you wish to speak?
I think we've got to remember that this is a deal. It's an agreement to be negotiated. And it's a deal between two parties, Her Majesty's Government and the various local authorities who will make up the combined authority. Now, there are differences between us and the government. That's why we need a deal, because there are different perspectives and interests. But I want to stress the important factors that we already share with the government. First of all, we share an interest in promoting devolution. This is the first serious proposal from any government to seriously devolve powers and funding to a local level. So that's something we have in common with them. Secondly, there is serious money on the table to address the questions of infrastructure and housing, particularly housing in Cambridge and South Cambridge. Huge amounts of money, serious intent. We have that interest in common with the government, and the government is not handing out this money in any charitable impulse. It wants Cambridge and the county to work for the benefit of the regional economy. And since this is one of the fastest growing regional economies in the country and possibly in Europe, of course they want to promote such measures as will ease economic development. But there's another one that they want. They want, as we all do, the prosperity of the people we represent, the people of this country. So what I want to stress is what we already have in common with the government. And the deal is really about relatively minor matters. Now, there will be divergence. I hear people saying, oh, not another layer of government. I don't take that. We're going to have the same offices, same premises, same councillors, same elected representatives. What's this new layer of government? It's not a new layer of government. I've tried to define this combined authority, and I take it to be the combined authority is an ad hoc supra-authority with specific and restricted functions voluntarily created by autonomous councils in order to better achieve shared objectives. Now that's what it is. You don't surrender sovereignty by sharing it. You extend it. And what these authorities have voluntarily entered into is an agreement that they will get more of what they want by sharing than by remaining so-called independent. Now, another objection is that of an elected mayor. But I, for one, I may be alone in this, but I can understand why the government wishes to deal with a fully authorised single representative of the combined authority. That person will have a mandate. They'll have gone out to get a mandate because they will be directly elected. They'll have to put forward a manifesto. We'll have to have a very good idea of what they will stand for. That person will provide leadership, and every authority, including this one, needs leadership and has got it. We want someone who can speak authoritatively and collectively for the authority, for the combined authority, and that will be the mayor. And we want someone who, with all of these powers and influences, is nevertheless accountable. And he is, or she is, and will be accountable because they can achieve nothing without the consent of the members of the authority. So this is like the American Constitution, it's checks and balances, and those people who are arguing that the mayor will somehow take over the county are just talking nonsense, and this is further scaremongering of which we've had too much in recent weeks. So I will be supporting the devolution deal, because I think the devolution deal offers a great deal of what we all want, and I think it offers for the county, at a time, may I say, of huge political and economic uncertainty, the idea that a government is prepared to invest, when companies are beginning to freeze their investment proposals and plans because of the uncertainty, if a government, and we are informed that the government is still minded to honour this deal, then I think we should be more than willing to accept it.
Thank you, Councillor Hipkin. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Jenkins.
Chair. This started in March, and we were told then, this is the deal on the table. You can't negotiate it, you take it, that's it. Somebody misjudged the mood of this chamber, and we did reject it, and it wasn't it, because we got Mark II instead, and that is much, much better. It's not quite right yet, but it's much, much better, so thank you to those people who engaged in the negotiation since then. The problem is that the mayor is there as somebody good, but the case has not been made. It's on page 27 of 84, paragraphs 88 and 89, and that is all. And it says the mayor has the right to raise business rates. Okay, that's a power given. Powers given can be powers taken away and given to other people as well. That's 88. And that's sort of substantive. You can perhaps take that to the bank. 89 is wonderful. Maximising the opportunity for the area to negotiate. Well, why does a mayor maximise the opportunity for an area to negotiate? There's lots of other good people around as well. It also provides visible strategic leadership. All very well if it's good, but you know what they say about power and absolute power. We don't need that man or woman. This is a balanced negotiation, as has been pointed out. This is a successful part of the country economically. We're as much needed by HMG as we need HMG. So we shouldn't just take things. We should say, this is the way we do it. We're not the same as everywhere else in the country. We need a solution which is appropriate for us. We should hold firm, go for a devolution deal which is correct, but reject things that are of no value, add no value to us. This is inappropriate. I support this amendment. It's a good one.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I'd like to say, first of all, that I welcome the funding for transport and housing and infrastructure that's in the devolution proposals. However, I do fear that it comes at a price, and I think that price is the ability of us as local representatives to do that job for which we were elected, to represent the residents of the area we serve. I think the devolution doesn't necessarily put the power in the hands of local people. It actually takes power away, and at the moment we are seeing a seeping away of power, whether it's the city deal or whether it's elected mayors, or power's being taken away. It's less and less clear who makes the decisions in which places, and there's less and less of a voice for local residents. I don't think that an elected mayor is a democratic improvement at all. I'd support comments that other people have made about the concentration of too much power in one person's hands. I see nothing in these papers about the right to recall an elected mayor if it all goes horribly wrong. Not even if the mayor leaves office for any reason, the power just goes over to the deputy mayor. I think we've seen with elected mayors in some other big cities, particularly London, that you can end up with personality politics and the mayor being lent on too much to follow one particular course of action rather than the range of priorities which we know we see with a plurality of different councillors from different parties and councillors from different walks of life. I think we're a diverse bunch of people. You're not going to get that with just one individual. Just to remind you, the idea of elected mayors was invented by that great populist Tony Blair back in 2000. But even Tony Blair made it clear that councils were not going to be forced to have elected mayors if they didn't want one. The process for having a mayor originally was to have a petition of 5% of local residents, which would then trigger a poll. Well, they tried to have a referendum and a petition, but they never managed to get enough signatures in Cambridge. I don't know whether such things were tried in other parts of the county. But I do know that out of 40 referendums on elected mayors, only 13 authorities said yes. I think it's clear that Cambridge and Peterborough do not have any wish for an elected mayor. This devolution bill is forcing us on one, and it's not at any stage been made clear why we have one. I mean, Councillor Cantor shouted to us that it is necessary, but he doesn't tell us why, and neither do these papers. I fear that an elected mayor will not give the breadth of representation and cover the breadth of interests that a large group of people would do. It would say goodbye to diversity. If you look at the elected mayors that have been elected across the country, only a very small percentage of them have been female. Only 1 or 2 of them have come from ethnic minorities. You're going to end up with very monochrome structure. So I repeat, I don't think the case has been made for an elected mayor, and I think it puts the whole project at risk, because whatever we say today, if we go to consultation and we're talking about an expensive new structure with an elected mayor of £60,000 or £70,000 salary and deputies and all their costs, I think the public is likely to say no.
Councillor Reeve, try not to be monochrome.
Thank you, Chairman. Anything but. I think this is an excellent amendment put forward by Councillor Bullen. I think it shows a real grasp of compromise. There's an awful lot in this devolution deal that we would be willing to accept with this amendment that I still don't like. But an awful lot of that is words on pages. And within the combined authority, changes could still happen. The problem with the change in governance structures to a mayor is that we are then locked in to that process. It does change everything. It is, as the Liberal Democrats have said, an absolute game changer. And it has been rejected already in the past when it's been attempted in Cambridgeshire before. So we already have a reasonable understanding that the public out there are going to find this as unhelpful as we do on these benches. But Councillor Bullen hasn't tried to amend huge amounts of this. He's tried to pick out the one bit that will be the sticking point for us and the one bit that will be the sticking point, we believe, for people out there. And I would urge the Labour group that to sit on your hands, if you agree with us, to sit on your hands and sit back and watch the decision be made around you by abstaining, really is the biggest cop-out of all in one of the most important decisions that's going to happen in Cambridgeshire in the near future. So I urge you, don't sit on your hands, do make a decision today and don't cop out of this, because your residents deserve your voice to be made. Whether you agree with us or not, I would rather you voted against us with conviction than sit on your hands quietly saying you agreed with us all along whilst letting the Tories get their way. And actually, I know many Tories who have quietly told us they hate the concept of a mayor, and we'll see today how the whip system brings them all back into line behind the leader. So Labour, please, please stand up for your residents and your constituents. Now, with regards to Tory leaders, we've seen an awful lot over the last week. It certainly has been an interesting one to tell the kids about. But many Tories seem to think they are the absolute negotiators. They're the people on the spot who make the difference, the man at the moment. And we've seen just how their Prime Minister thought he was that expert negotiator and exactly what happened to him. I would suggest to Councillor Cowns...
Councillor Bailey, did you want to raise a point of order?
Here debating the devolution agreement, not central government politics, and it's just wasting everybody's time.
Not strictly a point of order, but I'm sure, Councillor Reeve, you'll take the point.
Thank you. Well, it wasn't a point of order, and I've questioned which of us was wasting time. If the Conservatives, Chairman, if the Conservatives think this debate is a waste of time, we can see exactly where they're coming from. This is a debate where the negotiator has come back to us last time telling us that this is the final deal. This is the deal that you take it or you leave it, and there is no question that government will ever come back. You take the scraps on the table that they're offering, or you take nothing and it goes elsewhere. I'm proud to have been one of those councillors who stood up to the Conservatives and said no, along with other groups, with the Liberal Democrats, said no to government. And what did they do? It wasn't, as Councillor Count told us, they didn't walk away from the table. They came back to the table and gave those who said no sweetness. Cambridge City has done really, really well out of the renegotiation because they said no.
Councillor Walsh, is it really a point of order?
I just wanted to make sure that Councillor Reeve is aware there's a television camera in the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh, and I'm sure it will record the Labour group standing up for their communities with their abstentions later on in this debate.
Order.
Thank you, Chairman. So I say to Councillor Count, the one change that this amendment puts forward actually is a compromised amendment. It's a sensible amendment. It takes the worst out of this devolution deal, whilst leaving a lot still to be negotiated and fixed as the phases roll through. So this is a positive amendment, an amendment for Cambridgeshire. Now, if he is saying that the government have told him no and no means no, and that's the end of it, then he's not quite the negotiator he thinks he is in the back of the government limousines that he's proud to ride around in. Chairman, I urge this council
Order, members.
To support this amendment, stand up for the people of Cambridgeshire, and actually even in the practicalities of what does a mayoral office look like. Some council leaders have told me there's no cost, there's no staff. But when we've probed, we find they will have an office. We find they will have a chief exec, a monitoring officer, all those members of staff that are needed.
Councillor Hickford, is this a point of order?
I'd just like to make sure that the clock's working, because it seems to be going on an awful long time.
Thank you, Councillor Hickford. Right, members, Councillor Reeve is on the orange light. Let us hear him to the end.
Thank you, Chairman. But fundamentally, the Lib Dems have made the point, as have we, that the mayor is the element of this process that takes away the real breadth of consideration in decision-making that councils and local government really do. Do I want to see a mayor with huge amounts of powers held in one pair of hands with very little scrutiny, and even the scrutiny in this devolution deal hasn't been explained fully? I urge you, it's a small amendment with a big impact, but it's an amendment that could make the difference between this working and not working.
Thank you, Councillor Reeve.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, thank you very much. Councillor Dr Van der Ven.
to say that we noted earlier how short the amendment was, but the speech was very long. Also, when the chairman took declarations of interests earlier, I wonder if he intended for us to declare our potential interest in standing for mayor. I certainly have no interest in standing for mayor. I hope that women come forward to stand for public office, but I don't think this is a good idea. I'm all for collaboration across authorities. I'm all for strategic long-term thinking and working together. Councillor Hipkin talked about a mayoral candidate having a manifesto setting out his or her priorities, but elected members of the authorities of these authorities who are closest to ground level will do that job. I cannot see the added value of an elected mayor except that it will be at government's convenience.
Thank you. Councillor Cairns.
Thank you, Chair. I think the tumultuous events of the last week have shown us, if one thing alone, that we have a broken society and we have a disconnected people. And whatever our politics are, we cannot escape that fact. I think an elected mayor will just add to that. I certainly know from all the conversations that I've had with people in Cambridge and people in the marketplace, which aren't just the people who live here, but the people who work here and come from all over Cambridgeshire and beyond. None of them want this. None of them understand the need for it. As others have said, I don't think the clear case has been made. A business case has not been made. This has been the directive of a government. This is not what this country needs. This country needs grassroots councillors who also have the ability to think strategically and work in partnership. The one thing this country does not need is another figurehead to consume the power, to consume the conversations, and to take away local democracy. And for that reason, I support this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh, you're back on the list.
Yes, I wasn't going to speak, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, because I'm planning to be in the shadow cabinet by the end of the day. Yeah. So I might need to rush off unexpectedly, and my phone is on. So, well, let me first explain. Let's remind ourselves where we are, and then I will deal with the frankly offensive statement that Councillor Reid made, that we are not representing our community. Right. So, the government has said a mayor at this stage is unavoidable. And if we vote it down today, if we risk voting down the devolution deal, we risk turning down all of that funding. Councillor Bullen made the analogy with the European referendum. Yes, there is an analogy here. The UKIP party, which lectures us constantly about the need for direct democracy and direct participation, risks now not taking this to the people, to have their direct contribution on how they see the arrangements. So we're confronted, it seems to me, between the skiller of risking having a mayor and the charybdis of not letting the... you might want to look these up, the UKIP members, later on after this. But let's just ask ourselves what the UKIP and Liberal Democrat groups have contributed so far to the devolution negotiations. Because I have sat in leaders' meetings, and I'm sure Councillor Hitkin and Count will agree, where their contribution, their positive contribution, has been absolutely nothing. They have opposed, they said they would vote against it at the very start, and refused to make any negotiations. Do you know what the Labour group did? With the Labour City Council, we went to government, and we've managed to get over 500 council houses for the neediest people in Cambridge. Now, it's all very well, all you property owners in Cambridge, but I'm here to represent the poorest people in Cambridge and in my ward. And I cannot go back in good conscience and tell them, just so that I can posture politically in front of the TV camera, that I have not housed them. Absolutely disgraceful to be accused by people who have made absolutely no contribution to these discussions of not representing my community or fighting for them. I find frankly offensive. Now fine, play politics, do party politics. I will go back to my residents and I will say, I have got 500 of you and your families housed while they sneered at you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would just like to point out something of a contradiction in Councillor Reeve's speech. He said that the people of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough do not want a mayor. I think that's true. In fact, I don't want a mayor. I don't think any of the Labour group want a mayor. But our point is that it should go out to consultation. Because if the people of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough say, we don't want a mayor, we don't like a mayor in this process, that is a much, much stronger message to the government.
Councillor Reeve, is it really a point of order?
I think it actually is, because the statement is misleading in that
That's
the consultation
not a point of order.
is not a referenda on having a mayor or not. And the
Councillor Reeve,
the whole deal.
you've made the point. Councillor Whitehead, if you could continue,
I
please.
understand, Chair, and maybe I am wrong, but the consultation process will be taken into account before we and any of the councils in this deal make a final decision. And it seems to me if that consultation process says very, very strongly and very, very clearly we don't want a mayor, then surely it is up to these constituent councils to go and discuss that with the government and say the people of Cambridge and Peterborough do not want this mayor. And I believe very firmly that we should go out and ask them that. Whereas, as Councillor Walsh has said, if we throw it out now, we throw out the deal. And there are many things in this deal that are to be welcomed and that we support. I really feel that Councillor Reeve is misleading people by pretending that if we go ahead with the mayor now, we're going to get one. I think perhaps we are not. But the message will be much, much stronger if it comes from the combined people of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough than if we just throw out the devolution deal now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Onasanya.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to speak, but I will now. All I wanted to say was that whilst we note and agree with what our fellow councillors have said about the mayor, it is not ideal. However, the public have to be asked what they think about what we're proposing. This today is us coming together saying, here's a deal, what do you think about the form of it? Let's put it to public consultation. Let's come back. If we can agree it in October and we're happy with it, we will. If we cannot, we'll say no deal. It's that simple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dupre. Is it Councillor Count?
No.
So do I.
I hope it's a point of order. I do feel that on an amendment that involves 3 words without a mayor, that we're in danger. We're hearing a lot of repetition now, and I do think we're approaching the time. We should take this to the vote and move on.
That's not really a point of order, Councillor Count.
Isn't it standing up and asking for a vote? Proper
Well,
procedure?
if that's what you're asking for, I will hear the last 3 speakers, and then I will take it to in fact, it's more than the last 3 speakers, because Councillor Netzinger reserved her right to speak. So, Councillor Dupre, and I think the point is keep it short. Thank you.
I will do my best, Chairman. I bank with the Nationwide, partly because it provides me with a reasonable banking service, apart from the fact that it lost all my savings last week, but hey-ho, I've now got them back, but also because it's a mutual. And as part of being a mutual, it provides me every year with the opportunity to elect some fairly highfalutin people to make some fairly highfalutin decisions about the workings of the Nationwide. And when I get that piece of paper every year, the following people are standing for election, the first thing I do with it, the only thing I do with it, is put it in the bin. And the reason I put it in the bin is because I don't know who these people are. They are remote from me. I have no way of effectively distinguishing what makes them good and appropriate people, what their policies are, and how they will affect me. And that, I think we have to accept, is how many people feel about posts that are elected by them and supposedly democratic, but somehow miles away from them. And I want to draw a parallel between the proposal for a mayor and the Police and Crime Commissioner elections. Many of us have heard, indeed many of us who have stood at election counts, have seen on ballot papers, I don't know who these people are. And we don't know who these people are. They are a mile away. They are 50 miles away. They are people we have never heard of, have no opportunity to meet, and they are people who, because the electorate is so big, will not ever have the opportunity to go round, knock on doors and say, hello, I want to be your local representative, ask me anything you want. The result of that is that the turnout is pathetic. In the first PCC election, standalone
admittedly in November. It was a turnout of about 15%. It wasn't much better this time when it was held with the local authority elections, and it was marked that where there were council elections, the turnout was much higher. People do not like these posts. They don't turn out for them. Some of the ballot papers were very clear in people's views about the elected mayor. In fact, I've learned more about human biology looking at an election count than I ever learned in school. We've been given no clear, cogent reason why a mayor is necessary to unlock this funding, other than Mr. Osborne wants it. Well, Mr. Osborne, frankly, isn't long for this world. He's not going to be there in September. The consultation will have finished after he's no longer with us. So what does it matter what Mr. Osborne wants? We have seen that we are capable of getting a better deal by standing up for ourselves and saying this will not do. There is much to wish for and much to admire in this devolution deal, but the mayor is a massive stumbling block to many people engaging with this and being able to go forward with it and support it and give it their all because they see it as the affront to democracy that it is.
Thank you. Councillor Hickford. Councillor Downs.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try not to shout as much as Councillor Reeve and Walsh, but I would like to draw attention to the appendix, Appendix A, which I'm sure we've all read very, very carefully, because this is the crux of the matter. And in particular, I'd like to draw your attention to pages 26, 27 and 28. Now, on those pages, it explains the options. And there are an option of a combined authority and an option of a mayoral combined authority. And then there is then on page 27 a so-called analysis of the options. And the evaluation is no, 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 yes. Now, I put it to you that that is not a very convincing evaluation. I don't know who wrote that paper, but it is not impressive. We then go on. I then turned over, hoping to see exactly why the mayor is essential. Other than the fact that the government wants us to have a mayor, and if we don't have a mayor, we don't get the money, there is no rationale at all for the role of the mayor. So I put it to you that this paper is defective in its persuasion. And so, although it pains me to support a motion put forward by a party that has inflicted unspeakable damage on this country, I have to say I will support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Downs. And finally, Councillor Netzinger, who reserved her right to speak as the seconder of the proposal.
Thank you. It will come as no surprise to anyone in this chamber that I am arguing against a directly elected mayor for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. My concerns regarding a directly elected mayor are numerous. The first is that there is a massive problem with the entire concept that one person could represent an area as diverse as Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. I'm not an enthusiast for directly elected mayors anywhere in the United Kingdom. In this country, we have a proud history of representation through councils, whether those councils be parish or district or county. Residents understand who their local councillors are and are ready and willing to ask their councillors for support. Councils are properly representative and take representation from across all different areas. It may be that an elected mayor can have a useful role in representing cities such as London or Bristol at an international level. But how could a mayor possibly speak for an area as disparate and diverse as Cambridgeshire and Peterborough? A serious problem with having a directly elected mayor is that as soon as the mayor is elected, he or she can claim to have a mandate from the whole area. And as we are already seeing from the Police and Crime Commissioner, once someone is elected and in place, there are no controls whatsoever over what they may say or do, or in the case of the Police and Crime Commissioner, not do. Council account tells us that the role of the mayor is crucial to this deal, and yet this is exactly what was said by the same government back in February when we were told that we must sign up for a 3 counties deal or there would be no deal. This council refused that particular shotgun wedding, and thus we see that only a couple of months later the terms have changed. There is no question, as Councillor Hipkin pointed out, that the government needs the Cambridgeshire economy. If we say no to this deal, there will be further opportunities for negotiation. And as we've seen already, further negotiation usually means improvements on the terms. I am not surprised that Councillor Hipkin is supporting the idea of a mayor. He spoke eloquently last night on the arguments for an independent candidate representing Cambridge. I suspect he may have his eye on the job. I do not want to give Councillor Hipkin or anyone else the opportunity to negotiate with government single-handedly on behalf of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. I don't believe there will be more than one or two people in this room who are really, truly in favour of this proposal. This proposal has been brought before the Council today solely because we have been told that the Mayor is non-negotiable. That message came from George Osborne's office, and as we've been told, George Osborne is on the way out. I would ask this chamber to send a message to those in Westminster that devolution should be real devolution, to councils and to local people, and not to some figure as remote and unaccountable as the Police and Crime Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, members. That concludes the debate on Councillor Bullen's amendment. So we will now go to the vote on that amendment. Mrs. Rowe, if you'd be kind enough, please.
Would members please press the button marked present? Members in favour of the amendment, please press the button marked yes. Members against the amendment, please press the button marked no. Members wishing to abstain, please press the button marked abstain. I'm now closing the vote. Chairman, the result of the vote is 26 votes in favour, 32 against and 8 abstentions. The amendment is therefore lost.
Thank you, Mrs. Rowe. We move on to the second amendment, which I have notice of, which is from Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Chairman. You will have all received the amendment, and I do apologise for its very short notice. But if I can explain why we've done this, it's good to note in the package the recognition of the needs of St Neots. It's mentioned in 32, section 32. There's no doubt that St Neots, the largest town in Cambridgeshire, does have a need. I'd also like to thank Councillors Count and Bates for helping me to draft this amendment. And the purpose of the amendment is to put some meat on the bones of the St Neots statement. We've heard of the Ely rail link has been recognised. The St Neots needs have been recognised, but I'm being more specific by saying some of the things that we actually need. And a northern bypass, a new vehicle crossing, and the already delayed northern pedestrian cycle river crossing, plus flood prevention improvements at Little Paxton Bridge. Now, this isn't a shopping list. I'm not asking for this to be funded straight away. I'm just asking for these specific items to be recognised by, presumably, our new authority. And I'm not even asking them to be prioritised. I'm just asking for them to be highlighted. The largest town in Cambridgeshire, we are. Very proud of it. And I dare say that some of you will have also had thoughts on how and what you can put in your division as and when. Okay, I feel a little bit guilty about coming to this council to just ask that you put in this amendment. Not money, just recognition. Okay, Chairman, that's all for the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Do you have a seconder?
I hope so.
Councillor Chapman, do you wish to speak now, or do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
No, Chairman. I'll second the motion, reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Right. Now, we have some speakers. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll just give you a small insight into where I live. I represent Ian Soken and Amesbury. I live in Amesbury. For those of you who may not know Amesbury, it includes a large number of homes built in the 1960s to house people moved out of London when their homes in their areas were scheduled for demolition. In the 1960s, relocation to St Neots was made attractive by providing new jobs for newcomers on Cromwell Road Industrial Estate, next to the new homes. You could walk across the street to work. That's real sustainable transport. In recent years, those jobs have disappeared. Factories have closed. The owners profit by selling jobs, the land for new housing. The worry is, with the Alconbury Enterprise Zone, will this take employment away from St Neots? Housing built in the 1960s for workers is increasingly occupied by young people who cannot afford to get onto the property ladder, in many cases because there is decreasing local employment. For the short time that I've been a member of council, it seems very clear that St Neots is not on the council radar. How can a devolution proposal be drawn up which doesn't mention what is going on in the county's largest town? How can a devolution proposal be drawn up which doesn't mention deprivation of areas of Amesbury, Priory Park and Loves Farm? How can plans to build 20% of all the county's housing needs in St Neots in the next 10 years be drawn up without a mention? Population of 40,000 residents set to go to 65,000 during the planned period. Not a mention where they will work, go to school or anything. As representatives of the whole county, I please ask you to support this proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hartford.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say that I really empathise with the wish of Councillor Giles to see the inclusion of matters relating to a specific area. I know very well that there are other parties who would very much wish to see other specific schemes included. Regrettably, I have to acknowledge that the opportunities for doing so have passed, but the opportunities that endorsing this deal will afford are great. This is new money that will underwrite those opportunities. Regrettably, I cannot support the amendment, but I will support all future efforts to ensure that the objectives of Councillor Giles and other parties who have made themselves known to me are given consideration they deserve in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Clapp.
Thank you, Chair. What I've seen so far with these bills that are going through the council at the moment, and Councillor Giles, I'll be supporting your amendment because I think if we can get one going, we'll get another and it'll indeed knock-on effects, all right? So when it comes to places like Wisbech, which hasn't even got a train station, and it still won't have a train station in 2020, what I'd suggest to everybody, if they start thinking outside the box a little bit, and let's get some of these deals going, please, don't talk, let's do. Thank you.
Councillor Hipkin. Could you put on your microphone? Councillor Hipkin, can you pop on your microphone, please?
It's unfortunate that you have made up your minds not to support this amendment. After all, what does it actually ask you to agree to? To work with, that the Combined Authority will work with Huntingdonshire District Council and St Neots to deal with, to approach the problems which are peculiar to St Neots, which is, as has so rightly been said, one of the fastest growing towns in the county. The second thing it does is it asks that we develop plans. What are we risking in developing plans? Why are you opposed to the development of plans for the special needs and interests of a community like St Neots? Well, what it'll come down to is you're saying, yeah, because you haven't got mine in there as well. Well, that's up to you. You didn't put them in. They've gone to the trouble of asking for this addition. As local councillors, they've gone to the trouble of representing the views of their particular community. The fact that you haven't, in some instances, well, you know, that's unfortunate. But please don't now penalise the councillors from St Neots because they've had the sense and the initiative to actually put down this amendment. I don't see what you lose by it.
Thank you, Councillor Hipkin. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Chairman. This deal, this new deal, this extra deal, which some of you are so smugly happy about and I'm nervous about, has a power access. There is no doubt about that. If you are in South Cambs or Huntingdonshire or Cambridge City or in Peterborough, you are in a position of power. If you are not in those areas, you will be going to be fighting for scraps in this deal. If you are in St Neots, you are in a position already of extreme power. There's absolutely no doubt about it, because this deal is an A1, A14 corridor deal. It does not benefit the whole of Cambridgeshire. Absolutely not. It is an inclusive, not an exclusive deal. If I got that the right way around, maybe not. But it is. When I mean inclusive, it's inclusive to the centre and the edge, western edge of Cambridgeshire. I do not see, and you may see it different to me, that's fine, if you are in those three areas of Cambridgeshire currently, your need to be at the front of the queue with an ask is not the same as those who are on the periphery. And I say this to you for one reason, because what happens in St Neots benefits those people in South Cambs and Hunts and going up the corridor of the A14. St Neots is a growth area. It will get support from the people around the table. There's absolutely no doubt about it. If you are on the edge, if you're in Fenland or East Cambs, you are excluded from the centre of this deal. It is a poor deal for the wider population of Cambridgeshire. It's a poor deal for East Anglia. But there's money on the table, we've got to look at it and we've got to accept it. But I would say to you very clearly, if you are in South Cambs, if you are in Hunts, if you are in Cambridge City, the need for you to have exclusive or independent schemes in the deal is not necessary, because those schemes will come forward and they will be argued for and they will be put forward in the deal and the support will be there. No doubt about it at all. That's why I think I can't support you, because I think you're going to have so much more power in this new Cambridgeshire-only deal that you do not need to have your individual schemes in the document. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought we were discussing a document at a more high level and strategic. There are areas of detail that will be dealt with later on down the road. Therefore, I think submitting a shopping list at this stage, which it is inappropriate. St Neots is indeed recognised, as pointed out in section 32. It's well done, St Neots, for that. I believe a shopping list for any particular town or area is wrong and indeed divisive at this early stage. Deprivation is all around the county, unfortunately. It is not limited to St Neots. Indeed, Cambridge City has areas of deprivation. So that's an argument that I don't particularly buy. It's all across the county. If this amendment was worded differently, based on a more generic term, such as market towns, and that covers the whole of the county, I would be able to support it. But I think going into points of detail at this stage is inappropriate.
Thank you. Councillor Harty.
St Neots is mentioned in the document, as Councillor Reynolds stated, and I certainly welcome the work of the neighbourhood panels proposals that have been produced in St Neots, and I think we can do a lot more of that, but much further into the project. But St Neots is not and will not be forgotten as the proposals move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. Just very briefly, I mean, I think some of these detailed schemes could easily be put forward to the Economic and Environment Committee. You know, there is now a new process by which you can put forward schemes if you want to have plans drawn up, and I'm sure that that committee would welcome some of these, and that would be a route to getting them on the table and getting them out. I understand your desire to get these schemes a profile and on the table, and I think that would be useful. I know it's going to sound horribly technical, but it is relevant. It does say, moreover, the combined authority also recognises the presence of some of the county's highest areas. Well, we are not the combined authority, and the combined authority hasn't actually been constituted yet. So, you know, technically we can't even agree to that because we are not the combined authority.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Netzinger? Thank you. Right, I have no other... Oh, Councillor Orchie.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it's important in considering this amendment to actually go back to the text in the document, because the text in the document seems to be saying exactly what you want. The combined authority recognises the important economic value of St Neots. That's what you've said in your motion. The fastest growing town in Cambridgeshire, that's also recognised. And will develop plans to provide infrastructure and transport solutions to further enable its economic growth. So I think St Neots is recognised strongly in this documentation, and this really isn't the time for very specific proposals related to individual localities. That comes later, but there is that fundamental recognition of the importance of St Neots within this documentation already. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Orchie. Right, Councillor Chapman, you reserved your right to speak as seconder. Yes, Councillor Count, I'm getting to you, don't panic.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Chapman, Councillor Count is becoming overexcited. I'm sure he has forgotten in his excitement that if an amendment is moved, the mover of the original motion has the right of reply at the close of the debate on the amendment. So you are the last person to speak on the amendment. That's fine. It's not me. It's the Constitution. Councillor Chapman. Please continue.
Thank you. I always know Councillor Count gets excited when I'm about to speak. I think there's been quite a bit said about why does St Neots think it's special in this? Why is it different from other market towns? Why isn't it going to benefit from the an access of South Cambs and Huntingdonshire? Well, the situation in St Neots, as my colleagues over here mentioned earlier on, is that we have quite high areas of deprivation. We do in Priory Park and in Amesbury. And according to the council's own figures, we've got places like Waterley over in Wisbech, we've got Arbury in Cambridge, we've got Oxmoor in Huntingdon, and we've got Priory Park and Amesbury in St Neots, and those are the areas of main deprivation within the county. Higher levels of deprivation than elsewhere. In St Neots, we've seen a rapid expansion of populations. I hope everyone would have understood by now the fastest percentage rate of population growth in the country, not just Cambridgeshire, but in the whole of the UK. The number of houses that are being built there is 10% of the total number of new houses scheduled in the next 10 years, 10%. What we have is a special case here, something that should be mentioned in this document and has been omitted. There is a local enterprise zone in Alconbury. There is a local enterprise zone in Cambourne. We're building houses in St Neots. St Neots is losing its factories, the factories that Councillor Taylor mentioned earlier on, that were built in the 1960s to serve the local population for a sustainable community. Putting money into a devolution deal, more money for devolution means more money for LEP, more money for attracting companies to local enterprise zones, and less employment and more deprivation in St Neots. It's not a question of putting money into the LEP and that benefiting St Neots. Our transport hasn't been updated for years. We have 20,000 people living on one side of a river, 20,000 people living on the other side of a river. We have a bridge built for 8,000 people when car ownership was much less than it is today. These things have been identified over 15 years ago by this council in the Market Town Transport Strategies it was then. They've been reiterated 10 years ago in another Market Town Transport Strategy. What is this council doing about it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And we can talk about technology in Cambridge, science park stuff. We can talk about local enterprise zones. We can talk about businesses getting on. But what it's actually doing is shifting employment and shifting wealth around the county. And that's why this should be in there. Because what this deal does is it bolsters up things which are causing deprivation and unemployment and lower standards of living and life in St Neots. St Neots, the third largest population in Cambridgeshire. And okay, we've got Ely in here. We've got things such as a shopping list for Soham Railway Station, Ely Southern Bypass, Witton Sustainable Transport Needs. We've got things like that. The A14 makes no difference at all to St Neots. It was mentioned earlier on as something that's supposed to benefit us. But, you know, what we actually need is for this council to recognise that the people of St Neots live in the largest town which is getting the least attention from the council. It's not a shopping list. They're things which were identified many years ago that we're simply asking members of this council to do their duty as county councillors and look after part of the town part of the county that's been neglected. That's all. No money, no demands for funding in this. There's no demands for anything else other than a fair deal for part of the county. And if you're not prepared to support that, then I really don't think that you've ever been to St Neots or know anything about it.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. You're in the red light now. Thank you very much. And finally, Councillor Count.
Thank you, Chairman. And I had lengthy discussions with some of the members from St Neots earlier on about how we can move this forward, but it was very last minute, very rushed. Not through any fault of their own, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it was very difficult to deal with. And what we're left with today is a last minute amendment to a document that's been worked up over a huge length of time, a lot of hours put in. And what frightens me about this recommendation, alterations and recommendations, is the shopping list nature of it. And if one gets approved, then another comes forward. We could actually sit here this afternoon and people propose amendments from the floor that aren't even written yet as they seek to add theirs onto the list. We could also add up, as somebody else gets one in, actually saying, well, actually, I want my funding defined against this. The basis for this moving forward, if it gets approved, is the combined authority will have the flexibility with the mayor to spend the money, and they will look at the areas that need it most. And I have every confidence that St Neots will feature highly on there. I support some of the aims of what is required, but it's the wrong time and the wrong place for that. And in an effort to support those aims, I'll give a commitment to you. I will work with you, with the Economy and Environment Committee and work with our officers to see what can be done to unlock this. But I can't support the amendment today because of the time and the nature of it. I think it's right and proper for people on occasion to be passionate about their local areas. And there's a time and a place to have your infrastructure asks put in. St Neots is in there. I've sat at the negotiating table since day one. And March Northern Link Road isn't in there. And March Eastern Bypass isn't in there. They didn't make it into the document. In fact, I never mentioned them outside of this room because I know how the funding pot will work, and I will make a strategic case for March Northern Link Road and March Eastern Bypass at the right time. And I think anybody that could try and get those words in 3 times, like March Northern Link Road, but could be accused of parochialism. But that isn't what we're hearing over here. What we've got is people who are passionate about their area, that are trying to do something about it. David Harty as well, and others are really trying to do something. It's just the wrong time and the wrong place. That's all it is. I'll work with them afterwards to try and unlock some of this stuff, but I can't commit to this. My apologies, Chair, but I can't support this. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Count. Right, members, we'll now move to a vote on Councillor Giles's amendment. Mrs. Rowe, if you'd be kind enough, please.
Would members please press the button marked present? Members in favour of the amendment, please press the button marked yes. Members against the amendment, please press the button marked no. Members wishing to abstain, please press the button marked abstain. I'm now closing the vote. Chairman, the result of the vote is 20 votes in favour, 30 against and 15 abstentions. The amendment is therefore lost.
Thank you, Mrs. Rowe. Members, I now invite you to debate the items 1, 2 and 3 on the order paper, page 3 of 84. I am conscious that I still have 2 amendments outstanding, and I just want to make sure that those members, Councillor Netzinger, yours is in addition to point 4, and Councillor Walsh, yours is in addition to the end of the recommendations. So I guess you can either propose your amendment now or wait until later. Would you like to advise the Chair?
It seems to me, Mr. Chair, that given that these 2 amendments deal with the substance of the devolution deal, they should come first, because the last 2 recommendations have to do with the procedure that comes next. But I will take your advice, Mr. Chair.
Well, I was rather hoping you'd give a clearer indication.
I will move the amendment, Mr. Chair.
So you wish to propose your
I
amendment?
will propose the amendment as laid out on the pink order paper.
Thank you very much. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah. If I can find my speech, Mr. Chair.
Well, in the meantime, perhaps you can tell me who's seconding.
Oh, that's your job.
Councillor Whitehead, thank you. Do you wish to speak, or are you going to reserve your right to speak? Thank you.
Happy?
Proceed, Councillor Walsh, proceed.
Well, in order to understand, Mr. Chair, why the Labour Group is tabling this amendment as we are, we must recall again what we are expected to be voting on at the end of the debate. We are voting to take the current devolution proposal through to public consultation, and we will rightly afford the public their right democratically to have their say and shape the final proposal upon which we will vote in October. In short, to risk, as has already happened once and will happen again today, dropping the proposals as they currently stand not only turns down so much money needed for our county, but also that denies the public their right to have their say. And in that spirit, our amendment seeks to refine and clarify the document so that what we see as the fuzzier aspects of it can be made absolutely crystal clear for the public consultation. Let me first tackle the housing issue, which covers the first 2 points of our amendment. The Labour administration at the City Council is much to be congratulated for having stayed in the negotiations, made a positive contribution in order to carry out the most successful housing devolution programme anywhere in the country since this agenda has been rolled out. Of all the devolution proposals, none have been anywhere near as successful. And we can proudly say that we enjoy the prospect of over 500 people and their families on the housing waiting list being provided with much-needed council housing. And anybody, and I'm talking particularly to the Liberal Democrats, who from the outset refused even to negotiate, must go back to those people, look them in the eye, and tell them that they could not have got them those vital council houses. I am very proud of what we managed to achieve working with other political parties. Very proud indeed. I'm also proud to have secured an agreement with Councillor Count to make sure that the County Council's housing development on the Works Causeway site will be 100% affordable. However we configure the housing mix, I look forward to discussing in future, and Councillor Taylor's residents can thank the Labour Party for having achieved that as well. But we wish to make it crystal clear for the public that the 70 million earmarked for Cambridge is for council housing. There should be no fears that developers might seek advantage of the funding made available, or that the funds will not be allocated entirely for the stated purpose, as the government has made clear. But it's also important to make it clear to the public that the £100 million for delivering 2,000 affordable homes, not on the housing revenue account, will be made available for all the other districts and Peterborough. The public will know exactly what they will be responding to. But let us not kid ourselves, and we've debated this already so far. The proposal for a combined mayoral authority could potentially be very unpopular with the public. In other cases, the public may be willing to accept a mayoral combined authority because they wish to take advantage of the housing, infrastructure and skills investment which it affords. In the event that the final devolution package was approved, we would have to assure the public absolutely that we have considered all possible options in order to scrutinise the mayor and make the combined authority as democratically accountable as possible. And that accounts for our third part of the amendment. We have deliberately left the section of our amendment which deals with developing the scrutiny function as broad as possible so that all parties who seek positively to engage in this process can make sure that the scrutiny function is as robust and muscular as possible. Finally, in light of the massive cuts from which local government has suffered over recent years, the public will rightly be concerned that any devolution proposal was properly funded, administered and managed. By October, we expect that this council should know precisely how the mayor and combined authority will be staffed and how much, particularly for this authority and for Peterborough, as the largest authorities, it will cost. An informed and wise final decision cannot be made without it. Mr. Chair, I hope that the Chamber will support our amendment and receive it in the spirit in which we mean it. That's to say, the spirit of responsible councillors who appreciate the huge opportunities presented by this deal for the people of Cambridgeshire, not just for dealing with the Cambridge housing crisis, but finally letting the disadvantaged parts of the north and east of the county get their fair share of the economic cake. It is in the spirit of this clearing up this democratic process that we hope the public will have a clear understanding of precisely what we plan to do with these funds. And we look forward to making our final judgment on the final devolution package, however it looks, however powerful the mayor will be, when it comes back to us after a democratic consultation in October. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Count.
Hopefully you will be able to indulge me, Mr. Chairman. I was mentioned in specific reference to one point. If I don't clear up the point now, the debate may degenerate somewhat, so I hope you'll engage.
I will exercise chairmanly discretion to allow you to raise a rather fuzzy point of order.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure it will help. A specific reference was made to the Works Causeway, and I think you quoted that I've given my permission or something, authority that will go ahead as 100% affordable. Where we are at the moment is I've come up with a financial model, worked with Chris Mallion, that we think it's possible to deliver 100% affordable housing on our site at no financial detriment to this council due to the devolution deal. All right? We think it will work. It will be worked on in some more detail. If it does work, it will go through the absolute due process. There's nothing I can do as leader to give anybody assurances or authority that I can go ahead and usurp the process. It would have to be signed off and actually stack up, and this council would have to. And I saw people writing furiously, and I thought, if I don't clear that up, we'll be in a quagmire. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Count. I think in future you might refer to them as a point of personal explanation.
That was a point of personal explanation.
And very welcome it was too. Right, Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chairman. It shows what strange political times we're living in this country when my first intervention this afternoon was to back a UKIP amendment, and I find my second intervention being to thank Councillor Walsh. Strange days indeed. However, I do thank him, firstly because I think the content of much of this amendment is good. We need to crack on with putting more specifics together around affordable homes. We need to do better than we have at the moment on overview and scrutiny. But I do particularly want to thank him for having accepted the drafting amendment put to him by my group, because the original version of this was unclear as to whether we were going to be working with individuals who would be members of the combined authority or with the constituent bodies of the combined authority. I'm pleased that it's clear here that it's the constituent bodies and that it is the local authorities and the local enterprise partnership working together on this, because I think that's terrifically important. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other members who've indicated to speak, so we are now down to Councillor Whitehead, who seconded the motion and has reserved her right to speak.
I don't think I've got anything to add, Chair, other than just to say one thing. We in the Labour Group feel there are a lot of unanswered questions in these documents, and we hope in the consultation process to put forward the questions that we have. The main areas we've identified are the overview and scrutiny. We feel that the constituent councils should have a much bigger say in that. The whole issue, if we do have a mayor, of accountability, because being accountable just to the electorate is simply not good enough for somebody with so much power. And also about what role the people who go to the combined authority play, that is, the leaders of each of the constituent councils. Are they representatives of their councils and therefore have to put forward the views of the council, in fact, could be mandated? Is that the case, or do they simply go as independent people to do what they like? It's also unclear to us about the issue over the estate, over our assets and land. And we've got an investment and assets committee, and there's going to be an assets and investment board. What is the relationship between those? So those are just a few of our crucial questions that need answering before we can really sign up to this deal. And I'm sure every other group in the chamber will have questions that they too want to ask. So I hope you would support this amendment, which is about getting greater clarity over many of the as Councillor Walsh has said, fuzzier aspects of the documents before us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Count.
Thank you, Chairman. These amendments, as Councillor White has just said, are seeking for clarity in the way that we'll move forward after the vote. And a lot of the points, such as the overview and scrutiny and the budget of the office, you know, we all want the answers to that. They haven't been worked up yet. We were going to work them up. I was happy just to carry on doing that to the best of my ability with the other leaders. This is a specific request to do so, so I have absolutely no reason to vote against this. So I'll be supporting this, Chairman.
Good. Members, that's the list of speakers. I haven't heard anybody speak against this. Are you happy to accept this amendment by acclamation? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Walsh, I'm sure you're delighted. We'll be able to read all about it, no doubt, at length. Members, it is just past 3 o'clock. Would you like a 15-minute comfort break? No? Okay. No, it's fine, fine. That's, you know, we can carry straight on. In which case, for the, I think we'll go, in that case, to the last amendment so far, which is from Councillor Netzinger.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, sorry, I seem to have a... Okay. I wonder whether, in fact, it would be sensible to take the devolution agreement next, because the next one is then on the consultation agreements, and if we don't pass the devolution agreement, then we don't need to discuss the consultation agreement.
What do members, Councillor Count, are you happy to take 1, 2 and 3 first, or do you want to do it all together?
Chairman, I've been concerned about this being split in this way anyway, because basically to move ahead with the proposal, we need to pass 1 to 5. So to split them, you could end up theoretically in a 1 to 3 being passed and 4 not being passed and 5 being passed, and therefore the whole thing falls down. It needs to be a block.
Okay. In which case, Councillor Netzinger, I think we'll discuss this amendment and then we will move into the major debate. Councillor Reeve, did you have a point of order?
Not a point of order. There is a small amendment I would like to make from the floor after we discuss this one.
Fine. Councillor Netzinger, thank you.
Thank you. The Council agreed a few months ago to consult the public on changes to the structure in local government. If we are going to go ahead with the devolution deal as proposed, and I very much hope that we won't, and therefore that this will not be necessary, but if we are going to go ahead with that devolution proposal, which sets up 2 new layers of local government, a mayor's office and a combined authority, it would seem logical to consult at the same time on rationalising the other layers of government underneath. One of my most serious concerns about this devolution deal before us is the lack of accountability and transparency in the governance arrangements. Cambridgeshire residents already have difficulty in understanding which council is responsible for which services, and I sympathise with their difficulties. When we have a district council which is responsible for cleaning the gutters above the surface and a county council responsible for cleaning the gutters under the surface, it's not surprising that people find these things difficult. We have already had in Cambridge City and South Cambs real problems with accountability around the city deal arrangements, where residents find it very, very difficult to know who they should be contacting and how they can have any influence over really important changes that are going to make a huge difference to their local areas. And there are large numbers of parish councils in my area who are, well, parish councils right next to my area, who are very concerned at the lack of say that they have in the city deal arrangements. I think that introducing this new combined authority and directly elected mayor is going to take those decisions even further away from local people. It's going to make it even less clear who is responsible for things like transport planning. One way that we can help with that is by making it clear underneath who that we have one council which delivers the majority of the services in an area. So if we were to have this combined authority made up of 2 unitary authorities rather than a whole series of different arrangements in different places, it would make it much easier for residents to know who was responsible for which services and when, and much easier also to hold the combined authority properly to account for its decisions, because a combined authority made up of 2 unitary authorities would have proper, clear representation from each of those 2 unitary authorities, rather than simply one person from each different district. There are also serious problems within the devolution deal as it is currently drafted, in that residents of Cambridgeshire will have 2 representatives on that combined authority, in that they will have a member from the county council and a district council, whereas residents from Peterborough will only have a single representative on that combined authority. So there are real problems with the governance as it is already drafted. When we go out to consult on those proposals, it would seem to me entirely reasonable to also ask our residents whether they think it would be wise and sensible, at the same time as introducing 2 new layers of government, to take it down so that we have single councils so they know who's responsible for what. So I very much hope that you will support this amendment. It's simply to make it so that residents have proper accountability, proper ability to see who is taking which decisions where. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Netzinger. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Downs? Oh, apparently not, Councillor Downs. Councillor Downs, you've been usurped. Councillor Bullen.
Happy to second and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, who do I have to speak? Councillor Mason, please remain seated.
Thank you, Chairman. This amendment adds confusion on top of confusion as far as the electorate is concerned. We have been through, many years ago, the unitary debate for this area. And you will remember, Chairman, us going to listen, I think, to the appointed commissioner, I think was Margaret Hodge, determining whether we should have unitaries in the Cambridge sub-region. Now, the public will not understand this. 2 consultations going on at the same time. This will add confusion as far as they are concerned. Bear in mind that a week is a long time in politics, and the last 2 months have been a very long time. And in terms of layers of representation, we have already removed very quickly last week 1 layer of democratic representation, and many of us will applaud that. But now we're talking about doing a consultation on a new combined authority, but concurrently this motion says to do a further consultation at the same time on 2 unitaries. I really cannot support this. I have thought long and hard about this in my enforced absence. I've been reading a lot, and I have been looking to see what other areas are doing in terms of devolution. I've not come across any such arrangement in other areas, and I think it is unacceptable to the public, who will have a great deal of difficulty following the debate between now and October in the consultation, and I think this will unnecessarily confuse them, and I cannot support it.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Sales.
Thank you, Chair. Long time no see, as it were. This is a typically underhand, confusing, spoiling amendment from the Liberal Democrats in the true style to which we've been accustomed over the years. Over the years, there's nothing new. The Liberal Democrats have always been against a unitary authority. Always been against it.
Order. Let Councillor Sales carry on.
Do I get to speak, Chair?
Thank you, Councillor Sales. Please
carry on.
Thank
you so much. And we will not be supporting this amendment. And the consultation is about going for one authority, and that's what we want to do. So thank you very much, and good night.
Councillor Downs, did you wish to speak?
I'm aghast at Paul's complete failure to understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce. We're trying to. Oh,
Members, come on.
We're seeking to bring forward an idea which deserves further careful consideration, which will both save money and will clarify lines of responsibility which our residents do not yet fully understand. And when we ask them to understand the combined authority with the mayor on top of all that, I think that is going to be confusing for them. So I hope to bring forward a more carefully argued case for this at a subsequent meeting, but I think the time has come for us to avoid this ducking this issue as we have for many years.
Thank you, Councillor Downs. Councillor Reeve.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Downs has put it very eloquently. I would just like to add the point that I find it very odd that Labour argued earlier today that their position was all about consultation, finding out what the public thinks, and that's why they didn't vote in the earlier amendment. And yet here they are, stopping the Liberal Democrats, asking the public questions about how they want to see the future and trying to prescribe and predefine the options. So I'm quite shocked at the politicking going on in the Labour Party at the moment.
Members, just let's try not to shock the people of Cambridgeshire with the politicking that's going on in the chamber this afternoon. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was not intending to stand at this particular point, but I feel the need to do so. Councillor Mason is quite right. This is confusion. It will not be understood by the members of the Cambridgeshire County Council boundaries. This is not the right time to discuss this. There was an amendment put down last time. That needs to be progressed. Therefore, I will not be supporting this, and I'm not going to speak any longer. We just need to get to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that this is not 2 additional layers of local government. I think that was very clearly stated by Councillor Hipkin earlier. And if the Liberal Democrats want to help the public to understand which councils have responsibilities for which services. It will help if they don't put out in their literature to my residents in my patch. In a vote at East Cambs District Council earlier this month, local Conservative councillors voted for a greater cut to local services. This would mean we could lose mobile library services and school crossing patrols, and that our roads would receive less winter maintenance gritting. That's Liberal Democrats putting out literature to my residents, deliberately confusing district councils do not take responsibility for those services. We couldn't possibly have voted for a cut, and nor did we. If you want to help the electorate understand, Mr. Chairman, if the Liberal Democrats want to help the electorate understand, then they need to be very clear in their explanations and not deliberately confuse people.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I'm sure they will have noted that. Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chairman. Very quickly, I believe the unitary debate is totally separate from what we're looking at today. And those of us who are about 1995 and still have the scars to prove it will remember this subject can be very divisive. Any proposal on this subject must be done in conjunction with and the support of our district and city councils. If we put this on the table now, we're asking them to work with us on this board. The districts are just going to go absolutely mad, and there'll be plenty of bloodletting, and Brexit will have no comparison to what goes on in this county. So, and equally, there's an assumption there might be a consensus that there's going to be 2 unitaries in Cambridgeshire. Well, actually, when it was last looked at, more than that were proposed. So I think it's inappropriate to deal with this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Chairman. We are seeing before us a curious phenomenon. Only Thursday, UKIP and the Liberal Democrats would have torn each other apart. Yet today, they are totally in love and totally together. One can't quite understand why. One also can't quite understand the point of this ridiculous motion or amendment. We are voting towards a combined authority. The Liberal Democrats now want to break that up before it even starts and have 2 unitaries. Come on, guys, get with the picture. Let's follow the vote and let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cairns.
When this council, some 12 months or more, voted unanimously to review the governance arrangements that were needed for the future of this local government area, there was then, it was set up with a steering group to look at this. And very rapidly, we were basically told by government that this was the form of local governance review that you should accept. For that matter, this is not devolution because we were not having an equal conversation with government. The government had already decided what the model was. This is an entirely missed opportunity if we don't talk to the public about what is needed to run our local area. If my concern is what is going to happen and what is the trajectory which Councillor Palmer is basically intimating, is that really it's the death of this council, but in a very dishonest way, because this document puts into the writing that the leader can give up powers or give them to the combined authority. We've already seen that there will be a transport strategy. My concern is that this will be the end of this council, but by stealth, and the end of the committee system by stealth, because the mayoral authority will have its own cabinet, and therefore, over time, it will be eroded. This is a dishonest devolution deal.
Yeah, Councillor Cairns, we'll hear the point of order.
Sorry, Chairman, point of order, but what we're talking about is an amendment about consulting on moving to 2 unitary authorities. I can't see how this speech has anything to do with this amendment.
Not strictly a point of order. Councillor Cairns.
I said that this council unanimously agreed to look at the governance arrangements. This is an opportunity to consult with the public, to have an honest conversation about what is needed. And therefore, this is an ideal opportunity to look at whether unitaries may be a better way. I am not wedded to the idea of having city councils and district councils. And if, frankly, if councillors put themselves above the needs of the people they're here to serve, then I think that is shameful. I think there's an opportunity for all councils to look at what structure is needed, and therefore I support this amendment.
Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Palmer has alluded to politicians tearing each other apart. I have to say that if we want to look at a set of politicians tearing each other apart, we need look no further than the Conservative Party of which he is a member, which is riven from top to bottom over the events of the last week and has been for decades. Referring to the amendment in front of us, it is clear that Councillor Sales has, from his Cambridge perspective, clearly doesn't understand how confusing tiers of local government are outside the city of Cambridge. There are 6 tiers of...
Members.
There are 5 tiers of local government at the moment, or government, and will be a 6th. Residents are often confused as to who has responsibility between the parish council, the district council, the county council, the member of parliament, and currently we have members of the European Parliament, and anybody who says that they know for certain how that is going to fall out in 2 years' time has absolutely no idea at all. And to this we are proposing to add a 6th tier for the time being, which is the mayor, and this may be some kind of, as Councillor Hipkin has described it, some kind of ad hoc arrangement of people coming together for whatever it was, but that actually makes it more confusing. With 6 tiers of government, maybe 5 in a couple of years' time, who knows, it simply adds to the confusion and people being further and further distanced from who makes what decision and where. The aim of this amendment is to make moves quickly towards trying to rationalise those 5 or 6 tiers of government into something that is clearer and more manageable for people. That's an entirely reasonable thing to ask people for their views on. I don't see that there's anything difficult about that, and I'm really sorry that Councillor Bates has such a low estimate of his residents, whom I don't know, but I assume that, like my residents, they are perfectly capable of looking at a question like that and framing a sensible answer. I know my residents are, and I do believe it is beholden to us all to ask people to form an opinion on that and give us their views.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hipkin.
Others have taken their opportunity to correct gross misrepresentations made by the Liberal Democrats, who of course trade in gross misrepresentations. I was earlier, it was earlier said of me that last night I had recommended an independent candidate should be put forward for Cambridge. That is a lie. What I put forward last night was a unity candidate for the city, which is quite a different thing. And if I may say so, and I hope not to the embarrassment of the party concerned, my favourite candidate for Cambridge would be the present leader of the City Council. So any suggestion that my views on this matter are fashioned by any personal ambition... Do you know how old I am? I mean, ridiculous. Secondly, all this complaint about people in Cambridge not understanding the city deal, we have just set up for each project a forum of local residents who are not only invited to comment upon schemes, but to take part in designing them. Now, if that's not getting close to the people, I don't know what is. And this is not about, we shouldn't now be considering the merits of a unitary authority for Cambridgeshire and South Cambs. I mean, that is a discussion to be had, but not now. The timing is utterly wrong. The question that should be put to the residents of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough is the question of devolution, and it should not be muddied by any further question being put to them on what is a subsidiary issue. If we want to economise on governance, I suggest that we should seriously consider merging the combined authority and the city deal authority, because there's no good reason why they should exist. They could merge their governance and they could merge their funding. And I will take this up with others, but for the time being, may I put it at your door as a suggestion?
Thank you, Councillor Hipkin. Councillor Walsh, and if perhaps we could keep the politics to a minimum.
Oh, no, surely not. I remember, Mr. Chair,
Oh, no.
a conversation with Sean Reid, who was then Liberal Democrat leader of the City Council, who said to me the following: why on earth are Labour arguing for a combined authority? You know it will never happen. The government will never do it. Councillor Nzinga and her group know full well, particularly after Thursday's results, that the chances of national government wanting to reorganise local government are absolutely zero. They're about as likely as I am to have a friendly drink with Councillor Cairns. It's just not going to happen. Now, we know why this is being brought. It's being brought for exactly the same reason as the Mayor. They have to write their focus leaflets, and I'm sure it will be very good. It will be soft, strong, and thoroughly absorbent like the rest of them. But frankly, I think we should not take it with the seriousness with which it's intentioned, and I propose, I'm looking for a seconder, to move to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Count. I only have 3 speakers left, including the seconder and Councillor Count, who has the right to...
Chairman, sorry. It's a point of order. This happened earlier. There's been a proposal from the floor and a seconder, and do you have the constitutional right to override that?
Yes, I do.
I think it's very disappointing, Chairman. It's twice today you've done that.
Well, Councillor Palmer, I do feel on matters of such importance
I would question, Chairman, if the amendment wasn't a Liberal Democrat amendment, whether you would do so.
Well, Councillor Palmer, you are of course entitled to your opinion, but I feel that is unworthy of you. Councillor Manning.
Thank you, Chair. I actually was going to respond to something Councillor Palmer said earlier. I was quite surprised at what he said. He talked about UKIP and the Liberal Democrats tearing chunks like each offer one week and then agreeing the next week. I think the answer to why that happens is perhaps because we're adults. And sometimes we can disagree. If Councillor Reeve and I talked about climate change, we probably have a very big argument. But on the other hand, when we were trying to negotiate a 4% council tax rise, we did our best to try and find common ground. And Councillor Bailey talked about literature and Councillor Walsh mentioned it. I've lost count of the number of pieces of Labour literature I've seen, Chair, that claim that Labour are campaigning desperately for a unitary authority, yet they're about to vote against it. So I assume we're not going to see any more of that literature.
Right, Councillor Manning, if you're finished.
I would simply sum up by saying, Chair, this is asking to go and ask the public what they want to say. So why don't we just trust the public to make a decision?
Thank you. Councillor Bullen, you seconded the amendment. It's now your chance to speak.
I did. Thank you, Chair. And before we start, I'll keep it short, but before I start, I do take issue with my colleague, Councillor Palmer, there. I think you've been an excellent Chair in the time you've been in that seat. And that
Thank you.
Your apolitical stance as such should not be questioned by anybody in this chamber. It's been mentioned that this causes confusion. I don't agree that it does cause any confusion at all in this council. We agreed not that long ago, Councillor Creswell and I both put motions forward to council which were similar, and we actually came up with a compromise which included looking at unitary authorities. And from earlier today, you know my position on unitaries. It just seems a sensible solution to actually, if we're going out to consultation, to ask the question now what sort of governments the public would like, and then we can take that forward. Councillor Reynolds mentioned that it would be more bloodletting than Brexit, and Councillor Reynolds and I represent the same division and get on very well. I can only assume he wasn't in 10 Downing Street this weekend, because I think there's probably more bloodletting there than anywhere else. Councillor Walsh that government wouldn't agree to a reorganisation of local government. Well, it's not up for central government to reorganise local government in this area. It's up to us to do it and to speak. And if the public want reorganisation and a slimmed down basis, then we should be discussing it once we've got the public opinion with our district and town colleagues. I have no problems whatsoever in seconding and supporting this amendment. It makes perfect sense, and it's common sense at the end of the day.
Thank you. Councillor Count.
Thank you, Chair. This amendment is nothing more than a wrecking ball designed to derail the devolution debate. Councillor Mason's quite right. You go out to the public and you talk about consultation on devolution, creation of a combined authority with a mayor, running alongside another consultation on the creation of 2 combined authorities. What a nonsense. How are you ever going to get people to understand that? Of course you're not. That is complete nonsense. And it's actually based on something that's undermining that this council wants, what this council has voted on and decided to do. And this council said, if we move towards a combined authority, we will work with our district and city colleagues to look at governance, review it, and to come forward with suggestions on an evidence base. But that has been translated into something where you've jumped to a conclusion. You already know what's best for the people of Cambridgeshire. You're only consulting on one model, 2 unitaries. It's in the paperwork, consult on 2 unitaries, not alternatives, and certainly not with the indulgence of the district and city colleagues. It's a shame. It takes so much hard work for everybody to sit around a table and understand and get this proposal this far without having people leave the table, because they understand that we all have different responsibilities and different remits and different budgets to get to the point that we have a devolution proposal in front of us. To try and actually destroy it in its early infancy by mudding it up with this other thing, it's unwelcome and it's unworkable. If you pass this, the district colleagues will say, this was always what you had in mind, and it couldn't be anything further from the truth. But what we have in mind, and this council passed, is to work with each other to find a solution, not to dictate that solution to others. So I urge everybody to vote against this. It really is unworthy of being in front of us, considering the big debate we have.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chapman, I have no other speakers, so unless this is a point of order.
Point of order. It's very serious business in this chamber being discussed today, and I wonder if you can clarify whether you believe it appropriate to have soft toys displayed behind councillors' heads.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman.
Especially given that this meeting is being filmed.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. I do not have a strong view one way or the other that has not already been expressed via Mrs. Rowe. So we are now going to Councillor Shellams. Is this a point of order? Because none of the other ones have been so far.
In view of what I've just heard and your immediate comment there, I wonder if it would be helpful if you could pass round, or someone could pass round, what constitutes a point of order.
I think if you find on your mobile phones, if you go to the County Council website, the Constitution is displayed there in all its abundant glory. So instead of wasting further time and financial resources, let's get on with the vote on this particular amendment, which is Councillor Netzinger's amendment. Mrs. Rowe, if you'd be kind enough, please, to lead us through the vote.
Would members please press the button marked present? Members in favour of the amendment, please press the button marked yes. Members against the amendment, please press the button marked no. Members wishing to abstain, please press the button marked abstain. I'm now closing the vote. Chairman, the result of the vote is 23 votes in favour, 41 against and 1 abstention. The amendment is therefore lost.
Thank you. We move on. Councillor Bullen, I think you were the next. Sorry, Councillor Reeve. You had an amendment you wish to put.
I did, Chair. It's a very simple one, and it's not one that I wanted to put forward to this chamber until I heard the debate today. It was certainly something I was taking up outside. Bearing in mind the heavy position that the Labour Party have put on how they will vote in the final vote on this come October, November, to the consultation that they've said they will listen to the public over the issue of the mayor. I would like it enshrined in some way that we will ask a simple yes or no question as to whether the public, and it would be item 4B, do you believe there should be a new political office for a mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough? That would then give us absolute clarity in that consultation. My worry is, unless hearing the politics going on today, unless we enshrine that there will be a direct question, my worry is that it might be referred to or hinted at, but we won't get absolute clarity, and that will let groups who have made commitments to the public today off the hook.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Reeve. For absolute clarity, what is your amendment to the proposals?
It's 4B, and it's asking in the consultation questions, do you believe there should be a new political office for a mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough?
Hang on a minute. Do you have a seconder?
Happy to second, reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Bullen. Let me just make a quick note of that. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not be supporting that amendment. At this seminar that lots of members attended, I recall, and I'll be corrected by the Chief Executive, that the discussion about what was in the consultation document would go to group leaders. That I recollect was what was being suggested by the Chief Executive. I think that is the right way to deal with it. I don't think we need to design the consultation document here on the hoof. I think that needs greater thought, greater input to make sure we've got the questions right, all the questions right, and therefore I would not be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Councillor Downs.
Yes, just to add to that, at the briefing you referred to, this point was raised, and we were given an undertaking by the Chief Executive that there would be great care in the way the consultation was phrased and in the weighting that it carried in making the decision. Because I'm afraid on previous occasions we've had consultations which have said one thing and the council has gone on and done something else. Now, we need, to be fair to the public, we need to know whether or not they're wasting their time. But that was promised by the Chief Executive at the briefing that there would be further agreement on the nature of the consultation.
You may make a point of information.
Yes, that was a point that I raised at that very meeting, and all I'm clarifying today, bear in mind the debate I've heard, it's why I wasn't going to raise it, is I want absolute confirmation that that direct, simple question will be asked.
We've got other speakers, so calm down, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Bailey.
Well, it was only very briefly to say I think it's important that the consultation is done in conjunction with the other local authorities involved in this process who will be carrying out their own consultations. Otherwise, we could get individual residents giving different answers to the same question from different authorities and conflicting answers. So I think that's important as well.
Councillor Hipkin.
What Councillor Bailey has said, it's important that the electors of this county understand that the mayoral feature of the deal is but one feature, and that there are many other features intertwined with the entire deal. And to separate from the entire deal one particular feature, especially which is likely to be the most controversial and give UKIP the best chance of the whole deal being rejected, it's more responsible to give to the people the same responsibility that has been given to us, namely to understand and assess the deal in its entirety.
Councillor Scott.
As I understand it, my group is opposed to the office of mayor. However, I would feel reluctant to support this no, because if one reads what Councillor Reeve has said, he says, do you believe there should be an office of mayor? Now, that can be interpreted as you have a mayor, but without an administrative office supporting the mayor, or you don't have a mayor or an office supporting the mayor at all. The wording is ambiguous, and the worst thing that we could have is a motion going forward saying this is the wording that must be in the consultation when it's ambiguous wording. If there is a desire on the part of the majority to have a question in the consultation that goes to the issue of whether there would be a mayor or not, then I think that that's what we should agree to, and that the actual wording that goes into the consultation should be, as has been said on the other side there, worked out in precise terms, not in this chamber at this time. The worst thing that parliaments can do is to actually amend legislation on the hoof, as has been the expression that's been used, and it gets lawyers a lot of remuneration in having arguments about what the legislation actually means. And it's because amendments have been made in the chamber and there hasn't been proper thought about how the wording should be. So I actually could not vote for.
Is this a point of order?
Point of order, yeah, and it won't take me very long to get there whatsoever. Councillor Scott is absolutely right. I don't really have much time for listening to amendments that are proposed on the hoof that we can't see written in front of us that have come forward. It's also politically motivated, another wrecking ball attempt. It's really not very good enough. Therefore, as a point of order...
Mr Chairman, this is not a point
of order. It is. And therefore, as my point of order, I have no intention of supporting this, and I propose that we don't waste our time, and I ask that the question be put. Point of order.
Well, as it happens, the seconder, Councillor Bullen's the next speaker, and you're the last speaker. I think you've done your bit. And Councillor Bullen, I think we all know what you're going to say. So I am inclined to move straight to the vote, that the question be now put. It isn't up to Councillor Bullen. I think I'm going to do that because time has marched on. The Council is now asked to agree that the question be now put. And then I will put the question. So we're 2 votes. Mrs. Rowe?
Would members please press the button marked present? Members in favour of the motion, please press the button marked yes.
No, this is the question.
Oh, the question be put. Sorry, please press the button marked yes. Members against that the question...
Members, I'll do the chairing, thank you.
Be put, please press the button marked no. Members wishing to abstain, please press the button marked abstain. Chairman, the result of the vote is 39 in favour, 17 against and 1 abstention. The question now be put.
Right, members, we are now going to the substantive amendment. Well, Councillor Giles, to be absolutely honest, I don't think it's going to make a very great difference in the great scheme of things.
Can I ask that the question be put again?
Well, no, I think that, Councillor Giles, with the greatest respect, I think the question has been put and answered conclusively. So we are now going to vote on the amendment. Mrs. Rowe.
Would members please press the button marked present? Members in favour of the amendment, please press the button marked yes. Members against the amendment, please press the button marked no. Members wishing to abstain, please press the button marked abstain. I'm now closing the vote. Chairman, the result of the vote is 23 votes in favour, 40 against and 1 abstention. The amendment is therefore lost.
Thank you. Do I have any further amendments that any member would like to put forward before we move to the substantive discussion of the motions in front of us, all amended? Councillor Shellens is making T signs at me, and I imagine a number of others have... Members, do you want to adjourn for 15 minutes or not? Right, we'll take a vote. Mrs. Rowe, we're going to take a vote on whether to adjourn for 15 minutes. And we'll do this democratically.
Would members please press the button marked present? Those in favour of T, please press the button marked yes. Those against T, please press the button marked no. Those wishing to abstain, please press the button marked abstain. I'm now closing the vote. Chairman, the result of the votes is 29 in favour, 34 against and 1 abstention.
Right, members, we continue with the debate. So, I'm now... Members, order please, order. Can I now ask for members who wish to speak on the main motion in front of us to indicate? Councillor Netzinger. Yes, no.
I will be voting against this devolution deal, but I will do so with great disappointment. There is much in this devolution deal that I would like to vote for. The problem is that this deal contains a series of bribes from central government, and there are some quite nice things in the bribes, but it is quite clear from the process we have gone through that the bribes are needed because the basic structure of this deal is so unacceptable. The bribes are excellent, but they are things that central government should be supporting because they tackle serious issues in this area. We should not be having to be bribed to get the government to support these things. They should be supporting affordable housing in Cambridge and rail facilities in Soham because these are the serious needs of our communities and because they would support economic growth, which we are even more likely to need even more urgently in the immediate future. Those investments should come to Cambridgeshire without the unacceptable imposition of new governance arrangements. Those governance arrangements are really dreadful, and unlike the rest of the deal, they have not been improved in any way by the negotiations which have been going on in recent months. There is absolutely no no evidence of any desire from residents or councillors on the issue of a directly elected mayor. The mayor is only a part of the poor governance in this deal. The combined authority itself is also deeply undemocratic. Having one single representative from each council effectively excludes any voices left over from anyone in the population who did not vote for the ruling group. We effectively exclude potentially more than half of the population from discussion and debate on what will be really important matters which will have a huge impact on every community in Cambridgeshire. Not only that, but the layers of different organisations mean that it makes it very difficult for residents to know how to lobby and who to lobby over any individual decision. And it also makes it very easy for leaders of councils who will be sitting on the combined authority to wriggle out of taking responsibility for individual actions. We've seen this on the City deal, and we're seeing it again in the City Council over the decision to support this deal. By giving our leaders this much power and not being able to hold them properly to account for the decisions that they make, we are making it incredibly difficult for both councillors and residents to hold the people making the decisions responsible for those decisions. And it's really important that decisions are clear and transparent, and that people understand who is making a decision, why they're making that decision. This is a problem which we've seen recently, that actually if you ask residents for a decision on something, let's take a referendum, for example, if it's not clear what the outcome is going to be, if it's not clear who's making that decision and what the potential is, we end up with very, very poor accountability and chaotic government. And I really, really think that the governance arrangements in this deal are so bad that in spite of all the lollipops we've been offered, in spite of all the fantastic things that there are in this deal, and there are wonderful things in here, but they come at such a price for our local democracy that it is simply not worth accepting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hoy.
Thank you. I have a great many concerns about this devolution deal. I'm really concerned about the ability to levy extra taxes on businesses to get money towards the infrastructure pot. And I do worry that some of that pot might actually be smoke and mirrors and we might not see most of it. I also really share concerns about an additional layer of government. I think we don't need any more bureaucrats or any more posts, and I think that a lot of points that have been made about that are very well made. I've also really got concerns about paying for the office with our money. I mean, people, being found moving figures around and various things like that. I think the truth is we don't know how much it's going to cost until it happens, and that's why I welcome the earlier because we need to get some clarity on that. But it does worry me that we're making cuts to services and then paying towards this additional layer of government, and that does worry me. However, I will be supporting this today, and the reason the reason is because we've had these debates about whether we should be appropriate, but data is being released to say that deprivations got worse, and it's now 7 of 10 wards in Cambridgeshire are the most deprived are in this region. We've been 94 nationally to 80, so things are getting worse and not better like we keep trying to say they are. And in this document, which we is specifically mentioned, and those vital transport bits like the A47, like the railway, are mentioned in the document. And I don't want to be the one that took the risk of turning this down and not getting those things. I can look my electorate in the eye and say, yeah, okay, it has cost us a bit of money. Yeah, okay, maybe you don't like them there. But it'll be even worse for me in 5 years' time if I was still here to say to them, well, you haven't got your railway, and I could have got it for you, but, I didn't want to take the chance. And I think that I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did that, so that's why I'll be voting for it today.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I drove in this morning and I was really getting quite worried because I thought we might be making a decision in this chamber which was going to pull the people of Cambridgeshire back and deny them facilities, infrastructure and housing. But then I was really very refreshed to hear the conversation that came from, firstly, Councillor Walsh, and I wouldn't naturally agree with him on everything. But in this case, he seems to be quite well aware of putting the people of Cambridge and Cambridgeshire first. He recognises the need for housing for our mainly young, but in fact for all age people. And he and his group, I imagine, are recognising the urgency, the need for speed, and not for sort of picking, sitting on your bottom and abstaining. I just think it's refreshing to see people working for the benefit of Cambridge and Cambridgeshire. And I widen that to Councillor Sales, who appears also to want good things for the people he represents. So I'm really encouraged by what I've heard today, and I'm glad that on this occasion it seems that the Labour group and ourselves are working together for the benefit and not trying to score cheap political points. And just to support that Labour view, one of the councillors over there on the Liberal Democrat talked about the Labour Party blowing itself to pieces in Parliament. Well, I think the public did that to the Liberal Democrats in 2015 by reducing them from 55 to about 6. At least the Labour Party has got over 200 members in Parliament, so they've got more people to have an internal argument. I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Shooter.
Thank you, Chairman. I think this is a fantastic deal. It's remarkable when you consider where we were a few months ago, what has been put together. And I think compliments must go to the team that negotiated this. I think Steve's done an awful lot on this on behalf of all of us, which is brilliant, and I think compliments go to him. I think compliments should equally go to Lewis Herbert and the Labour group in Cambridge. I think they've done an absolutely remarkable thing. To my knowledge, there is no other deal on the table that allows for 500 council houses. They have completely transformed what is possible to happen in Cambridge. And I think we on this side must accept that Cambridge has some really unique problems, and the deal that has been put together is absolutely fantastic, and I really think we must back it. I'm naturally an optimist. I've always been an optimist. I have to say the last few days have shaken that optimism, and I'm now pessimistic as to our short-term future. Long term, I'm quite sure that we will do well because we're a great country and we're able to. But the short term, I was brought up in Europe, so I understand the European psyche. And the short term is going to be very difficult. Beware a European technocrat scorned. I tell you, they will do everything to block us at every turn possible. The chances of us negotiating good and transparent and good for us trade deals in a short space of time are zero, to my estimation, absolutely zero. And we will have a difficult time. We're going to have to look outwards. We're going to have to look to the world.
Councillor Shooter, let's get back to the devolution deal.
It's relevant to what I'm going to say.
Okay.
We have to turn Cambridgeshire even further into a great trading county. We have to look after our people, and we have to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place, that we can encourage companies to come here, and they will look at our infrastructure and the investment being made by the government in this county, and us all working together on it as well, for the people and for those companies that will bring the wealth to this county. And this deal enables us to do it. And we can build on it. Some may say, oh, you know, it's not actually an awful lot of money, £20 million a year, but that leverages the amount we can borrow. And as has been pointed out by some others, look at what Manchester has done. They're now on their 4th deal. We can come back with more deals when we prove that we can engender more and more investment. And we are now open to trade with the whole world. So we've got to prove to them that we are going to be capable and ready. And we mustn't forget our people, the people that live here. They're fed up with not being able to get anywhere. They're fed up with not being able to have enough places in their schools. We can take a lot of the Westminster control away and have it here and deliver it locally. Now, it may be a little bit opaque at the moment, quite how we do it, but this is the start. And I really think this is a start, and it will enable us all to work together. Over to the issue of a mayor. Well, I appreciate some people don't like the idea of a mayor, but the reasoning I believe behind having a mayor is it's a focus. It is a focus that the government can focus on, that there's somebody who will deliver it, and the people can say, if it's not delivered, well, it's up to you, mate, whoever it happens to be, mate. So we can actually look at it as that focal point that's required to get things done. I'm from a business background, so I'm perfectly used to working for a chief executive, and I would see this as a chief executive, somebody with vision and somebody to drive it forward. I make no secret of the fact I would like to see it not necessarily independent, but I would like to see it somebody broadly acceptable to all the people of Cambridge, if at all possible. And I would love it to come from, to be a high-profile individual and preferably not a politician. That may not be a vain wish, but that's what I would really like to see, and I would like to see the people having confidence that that person can talk at a high level to government, and he can talk at a high level to all the organisations that he's got to talk to, and can show that he can deliver it. So I actually think this is a fantastic deal. I think that we've got to grab it with both hands. I'm not sure how much money is going to be around in the next few years, so let's get this while it's on offer. And I really, really believe we should go for it and try and work together. And I appeal to some of the others who don't like some of the bits and pieces of this. Just think about what this can deliver to the people of Cambridgeshire.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whilst I agree that this deal is better than previous versions, I still don't think it goes far enough. For Cambridge, it's brilliant, 500 new homes, ideal, but what about all the new homes that are needed in Wisbech, in Huntingdon, and all the other towns? I think that this is too little money, with no guarantee that it will appear. £20 million for 30 years? What government can ever commit a future government to that amount of money for the future, with too many strings attached? We won't get rid of all the Westminster controls. I was looking through the document that comes out with my council tax bill, and it's pity that Steve has gone, because I was about to quote him as saying, at the same time, the main grant from government will disappear by 2020, by which point we'll need to have made more than £100 million of savings. This year, we had to make £41 million in savings. Compare the amount of money that we have had to save over the last few years and will continue to have to save over the next few years with what is on offer for the whole of the county, and it is peanuts. And then if you look at some of the conditions that have been sent, so on pages 52 and 53, just to show that I have read all of the pages, it talks about the assessments. These are the gateway assessments for determining whether or not schemes are approved. These will be funded by the combined authority, but agreed at the outset with government. The government would expect the assessment to show whether schemes have better value for money than comparable projects. Well, does this compare with Manchester and other places? And we've got to evaluate our projects against theirs. The local assurance framework will be signed off by government. The implementation plan must be approved by the DCLG accounting body prior to delivery. We've got all this offer of a tuppence halfpenny, and yet all the conditions still are in place from Westminster. So I would suggest that for those reasons, and for the reasons which Lucy and others have said, this is not the right deal. We don't need a mayor, and we don't need an additional level of bureaucracy. You can do nearly all of the things which are in here by working better together. And there are some good examples here of some of the work that Adrian Loads and his colleagues have done on adult social care, where they have better integrated the provision of work with partners. There's no reference in here to reforming the Cambridgeshire Commissioning Group or the NHS England. Those are some of the issues which are really affecting the way we deliver services in this county, not some of the things in this document. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bullen.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll keep this short. I think Councillor Williams got it spot on there in most of what he said. I listened to Councillor Hoy saying she has worries, but she's going to vote for it anyway. She's going to vote for it, I think, because they've been whipped to vote it. And that's the total lack of democracy there is in the Conservative Party. Councillor Hunt was making political points, and Councillor Shooter said, Conservatives and Labour agree. The only thing that the Conservative Party and the Labour group have agreed on today is not to ask the public what they want. And it's a shame, a small amendment there to the questions we asked. Do you want an elected mayor? Simple as that. Had we agreed to that, then I've said already I'd like some of the devolution points. And I think it's a stepping stone to further things. But I also think we need the agreement of the public. And had we agreed to that small amendment, I would have probably supported this. But because we're not prepared to ask the public, whom we represent, what they want, then I'm not going to support it, and I urge everybody else not to support it as well.
Thank you. Councillor Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair. If there's one thing that last week told us, is to be sure that you're clear about what you're voting for before you go out and vote, or what you're choosing before you choose it. Make sure you've got it written down and you can have absolute confidence that it's going to be delivered. We're a bit short here by what you might call a business case. Several people have already mentioned it. What confidence have we got in the numbers? What I'd like to see is what is the real increment that we're getting here as a result of all those big numbers coming in. Because we get a lot of money anyway. We already have it year after year. Historically, it would come anyway. And HMG would feel obliged to give it to us because we are this attractive, economic, money-generating part of the world. And I know it's difficult making forecasts about the future, but we need to be clear about what the real increment is. Now, there is a value of having that ring fence, but if it's still subject to decision-making, how effective is that ring fence? And how close might we be to having a cap, not a ring fence? There's a lot of money coming in, excuse me, got a bit of a chest here. A lot of money coming in for housing, council housing, affordable housing, really good. I'd just like a little bit of an honesty as to where that money is going. Whose business is it subsidising, and how is it genuinely helping this part of the country? And I'd like a little bit more attention given to this famous mayor's office. Yep, thanks for waving that. I did vote for it. It's okay. How much will it cost? What's the top line and the bottom line of all this? When we look at the forecast for the future, what's the comparison of this deal with what we would have got anyway? If you replay the tape, I said I thought it was fundamentally a good deal and going in the right direction. So I'm not a big negative about devolution Mark II, but there's still some questions to be answered. And I'm not turning it down because it's not good, but I'm turning it down because it could be better. We talk about it being a foundation like Manchester for phases 2, 3, 4 and 5. Make sure you get phase 1 right. Otherwise, phases 2, 3, 4 and 5 won't be terribly attractive. So we need to be clear, get this right now, get the numbers understood, be honest about it. Now, one other totally different point, change of gear, change of direction. Devolution goes both ways. We're all very excited about devolution from up there, HMG, down to us. As we've heard earlier, there are town councils and parish councils. And we need to ask ourselves the question, what are we going to be devolving to them so that they can participate in this exciting adventure? We're asking them all the time to do more, but we're not giving them anything to do it with. So I think there should be a chapter in here on parish councils. And then finally, if I can be allowed to be parochial, on page 20, there's a list of food companies there. We're forgetting Europe's largest jam factory in history. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. But picking up on Councillor Jenkins' last point about what's in it for parish and town councils, and the fact is there isn't anything in it for them. And when you actually look at this proposal, the so-called devolution, it's devolution to a level above where we are. So for the government, it's devolution. For us, it's upward-lution. And for our parish and town councils, it's even worse, because they have been completely left out of this game plan. It worries me that this is really a Trojan horse. This is a Trojan horse by the government to ensure that it gets more of its own way in what happens in this region, which, as someone before us rightly said, is probably the powerhouse of this country at the moment and for the foreseeable future. It enables, because we have, as someone else has said, have to get agreement by the government for any way we spend this money that they are devolving to us. It means that they have a much greater say, and will have in future, on how we spend that money, how we spend that 100 million to achieve those 2,000 affordable homes that I would remind you are already planned for. And if the policies of our local planning authorities were followed, we would be delivered without this £100 million. This £100 million is in effect going straight into the pockets of the housing developers to provide us with the affordable homes they should be providing us under current planning policies and future planning policies. It's there for the infrastructure, it's there for not building homes. So, and even that's got strings attached, because if you read the document, and it quite plainly says that ambitious target for increasing new homes delivery has to be jointly agreed with the Department for Communities and Local Government. You know, there is no way that this money comes without strings. There is no way that we are being allowed to decide for ourselves, and more importantly, our communities, because I'm a great believer at devolving decision-making to the lowest level. I want our parish councils and town councils to make the decisions on how their communities are developed, who gets the housing, what sort of housing is built, what roads are built, what railways are built. That should be the level it's decided at, not by a mayor who is 4 layers of local government away from our local communities, who will have to perform to the dance, perform to the music of the government, not to the local people who live in this county and in Peterborough. So I think this is as I say, a Trojan horse. It's not got safeguards in it. It irons out democracy. It irons out opposition by allowing each authority to have just one representative. Even if that authority is finely balanced, that one representative will only be representing the 50% of the people who voted for that party on that local authority. As we've seen on this authority, we have grave doubts as whether the leader of this authority is actually leading the whole of this authority or the Conservative Party in negotiations.
Councillor Williams, if we could stick to devolution, that'd be great.
Concerns about this devolution package, and I will not be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Clapp.
Thanks, Chair. We've been going on about the Wisbech to March Railways now for some 12, 14 years. Still it hasn't come. This deal is still not right, and still the railway won't come. In 2020, I still believe the railway will not come. There's a lot of houses being built at Wisbech. We need a district hospital, but that won't come until somebody fights for it in this council. I'm trying my best at the moment with no support from my MP, and we're getting places. So, I mean, what we need is this deal to be absolutely 100% right. I won't be supporting this, by the way, because I still don't believe it's right. I still believe there are flaws in it, and I still believe there's a lot more work to do in it. By the way, we don't need an elected mayor. We've got a brilliant CEO right over there who works between the two authorities now. So just let her carry on and be in charge.
Thank you, Councillor Clapp. Councillor Kavanagh.
I support this, fully support this. I'll be very brief, but he's been mentioned already here in this chamber this afternoon. Tony Blair, his mantra was education, education, education. It's a pity it also wasn't
houses, houses, houses. But, and this is raising the level of this debate, some of you might know the Rolling Stones song, the Rolling Stones song. It has a line, you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometime you may get what you need. 2,000 people in Cambridge have dire housing needs. Lewis Herbert went down to London and he negotiated this deal for housing. £70 million, 500 houses. Those needs are going to be met. And it is interesting to hear the allusions to different types of democracy and so on and so forth in this chamber this afternoon. But I'm keeping it clear in my mind that we are here to represent our communities. And I won't spoil things by mentioning how one of the reasons I stood to be elected as a councillor was there was another party, not the Labour Party, running the city, your friends. The reason I stood was because your friends had made a decision that you were going to demolish council houses in my ward. And many, many old people lived in those houses. And they were terrified by the prospect. But fortunately, we've got Lewis Herbert out there negotiating strongly for, and he achieved it, £70 million. And I don't want to put that into jeopardy. So let's just make the decision to go ahead for this period of consultation and see what the citizens have got to say about it.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we've heard so many arguments here. I'm still not totally convinced. First of all, we hear it's going to attract loads of investment. Yes, it's lots of money, but it'll be the investment from industry and presumably Europe, or will it? I don't know. So where will that investment be coming from in the future? If I was a councillor in Cambridge, whatever colour,